Daniel Reed wiped the grease from his hands onto his already dirty work pants and stared at the fuel gauge. 3% remaining. That was barely enough to make it back to the nearest refueling depot, and certainly not enough to take on any detours. He had been running cargo for 8 years now, and every single one of those years had been a struggle. His ship, the Weathered Hope, was a rust bucket held together with spare parts and prayers. But it was his, and that meant something. The mining station at Procyon 7 was exactly as unpleasant as he remembered. Dark corridors, flickering lights, and the kind of people who asked no questions because they did not want any asked in return. Daniel delivered his cargo of medical supplies to a shady warehouse manager who barely looked at him before transferring the credits. It was not much, but it would keep him flying for another month. He was walking back through the cargo district when he heard it. A small sound, like a whimper. Daniel stopped and listened. There it was again, coming from behind a stack of shipping containers. Every instinct told him to keep walking. Getting involved in station business was a good way to end up dead or worse. But the sound came again, and this time he recognized it. A child crying. Daniel moved between the containers and found her there. She was small, maybe the size of a human 5-year-old, but clearly not human. Her skin looked like it was made of crystal, shifting through different colors. Right now it was showing dark blue and gray, pulsing slowly. She had large eyes that seemed too big for her face, and she was curled up against a broken crate, shaking. "Hey there," Daniel said softly, crouching down to her level. "Are you lost?" The child looked at him, and the colors on her skin shifted to bright orange and yellow. She scrambled backward, pressing herself against the container wall. "It's okay," Daniel said, staying where he was. "I'm not going to hurt you. Are you here with someone? Your parents?" The child did not respond. She probably did not understand him. Daniel looked around the cargo bay. There were a few workers loading containers in the distance, but no one who looked like they were searching for a lost child. He stood up slowly and walked over to the nearest worker, a Tyrellian with 4 arms. "Excuse me," Daniel said. "Do you know anything about that kid over there?" The Tyrellian glanced over and shrugged. "Been there since yesterday. Some people said a diplomatic ship came through 2 days ago. Maybe she got left behind." "Left behind? Doesn't anyone care?" "Not my problem, human. Station security doesn't care about strays. If you want to deal with it, be my guest. Otherwise, someone will probably sell her to a collector by end of shift." Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. Sell her? Exotic alien kid? Worth good credits to the right buyer. I'd do it myself, but I've got a quota to meet. The Tyrellian went back to work. Daniel returned to the child. She was still pressed against the wall, her skin now showing dark purple streaks. He sat down a few feet away from her and pulled out his ration bar. He broke it in half and held one piece out to her. "Hungry?" he asked. The child stared at the food but did not move. Daniel set the piece down on the ground between them and took a bite of his own half. He chewed slowly, making exaggerated happy expressions. The child watched him carefully. After a minute, she reached out quickly, grabbed the ration bar, and stuffed it into her mouth. Her skin shifted to lighter colors, soft greens and blues. "That's better," Daniel said. "Now, we need to figure out where you belong." He spent the next 2 hours asking around the station. Nobody knew anything useful, but he did learn that a Luminar diplomatic vessel had passed through exactly 2 days ago. The Luminar were one of the elder species, rarely seen in this part of space. If the child was Luminar, that explained the crystalline skin. It also meant she was very far from home. Daniel did the math in his head. The diplomatic vessel would be heading toward the Sirius Junction. If he burned hard, he might catch up to them in 3 days. But that would use fuel he could not afford, and he would have to abandon his next delivery contract. That contract was worth 2 months of income. He looked at the child, who was now following him around the station like a shadow. Her skin showed curious yellow and green patterns. Every time someone rough-looking walked past, she would hide behind Daniel's legs. The smart choice was obvious. Turn her over to station security and let them handle it. Or better yet, just leave her where he found her. He had his own problems. 3% fuel. Broken environmental controls. A hull that needed repairs. He could not afford to play hero. But then the child looked up at him with those big eyes, and her skin showed soft pink colors. She reached up and took his hand. Daniel Reed had never been good at making smart choices. "All right, little light," he said, using the nickname the dockworkers had mentioned. "Let's get you home." He scooped her up and headed back to his ship. The weathered Hope looked even worse next to the sleek vessels in the docking bay, but the child did not seem to care. She held onto his shirt tightly as he carried her up to boarding. Ramp. Daniel set a course for the Sirius Junction and engaged the engines. The fuel gauge dropped even lower. He had just made a decision that might ruin him financially, and he had no idea if it would even work. But as the child settled into the co-pilot seat and her skin glowed soft, happy gold, Daniel thought maybe it did not matter. The weathered Hope shuddered as it entered deep space, and Daniel watched 3 different warning lights blink on his control panel. He silenced them one by one, making mental notes of which systems were complaining today. The list was getting longer. The child sat in the co-pilot seat, her legs dangling well above the floor. She had not spoken a single word since he found her, and Daniel was starting to wonder if she could speak at all. Her skin kept changing colors, and he was beginning to understand it was how she showed her feelings. Right now she displayed curious yellows and greens as she stared at the viewport, showing endless stars. "Space is big, huh?" Daniel said, mostly to fill the silence. "This is actually my favorite part. Out here, nobody bothers you. Just you and the black." The child turned to look at him, her head tilting to one side. Her skin rippled with lighter blues. Daniel pulled up a datapad and showed her a picture of Earth. "This is where I'm from. See that blue? That's water. Oceans. They cover most of the planet." The child's eyes went wide. She reached out and touched the screen with one small finger, tracing the outline of the Pacific Ocean. Her skin burst into bright, excited gold. "You like water?" Daniel asked. He scrolled through more pictures. Mountains, forests, rivers, waterfalls. The child pressed closer to the screen with each image, her colors growing brighter and brighter. When he showed her a picture of rain, she made a small sound, almost like a gasp. "Desert world?" Daniel guessed. "Yeah, I bet water is pretty special where you're from." He spent the next hour showing her pictures and trying to teach her basic words. She was smart, incredibly smart. After hearing a word just twice, she seemed to remember it. She pointed at the water images and tried to say water, though it came out more like wah. Her skin glowed warm pink when Daniel praised her. That night, Daniel made a sleeping area for her out of cargo blankets in the small storage section. She did not want to let go of his hand at first, her skin showing worried grays. But he sat with her until she fell asleep, her colors finally settling into soft, peaceful blues. Alone in the cockpit, Daniel checked their trajectory and immediately wished he had not. They were burning through fuel faster than he calculated. At this rate, they would run out before reaching the Sirius Junction. He could reduce speed, but that would mean they might not catch the diplomatic vessel at all. Daniel rubbed his face and made a decision. He pushed the engines harder. The second day was when things started going wrong. The environmental system began making a grinding noise that Daniel did not like. He ran diagnostics and felt his stomach drop. The oxygen recycler was failing. He had maybe 36 hours before it gave out completely. And they were still 2 days from the junction. The child, who Daniel had started calling Lena because little light seemed too long, watched him work under the floor panels with worried orange colors on her skin. He smiled up at her, even though he was terrified. "It's fine," he lied. "Just routine maintenance." But it was not fine. By hour 20 of the second day, the oxygen levels were dropping. Daniel could feel it in the way his head started to ache and his breathing became harder. Lena's colors were turning dark and scared. Daniel looked at the environmental controls and then at Lena. The system could support one person at full capacity, or two people at rapidly failing capacity. The choice was obvious. He rerouted all the oxygen production to the storage section where Lena slept. The cockpit would get whatever leaked through, which was not much. Daniel sealed the door between the sections and got to work trying to repair the recycler. His hands shook as he worked. The parts were old, worn down, and he did not have the right replacements. He jury-rigged connections, bypassed broken circuits, and basically begged the machine to hold together just a little longer. 3 hours later, his vision was going dark at the edges. He could not catch his breath no matter how hard he tried. His fingers would not work right anymore. The tools kept slipping from his grip. Through the door window, he could see Lena pressing her face against the glass. Her skin was flashing bright red, the first time he had seen that color. She was screaming something he could not hear through the sealed door. Daniel's legs gave out and he collapsed against the wall. His last thought before everything went black was that at least the kid would have enough air to make it to the junction. Someone would find her. She would be okay. He woke up on the floor with cold air rushing into his lungs. His chest hurt. Everything hurt. Daniel blinked and saw that the environmental system was running again. The oxygen levels were climbing back to normal. It took him several minutes to understand what had happened. One of his bypasses had worked. The recycler had restarted on its own, probably from the automated safety systems kicking in when oxygen got too low. Pure luck. Lena was still at the door window, her skin showing relieved pinks and golds. When Daniel managed to open the door, she rushed to him and wrapped her small arms around his neck. She was crying, making soft chirping sounds. "I'm okay," Daniel said, his voice rough. "We're both okay." He held her for a long time, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. It was faster than a human heartbeat, like a bird's. That night, Lena refused to sleep anywhere except next to Daniel in the cockpit. He made a nest of blankets on the floor, and she curled up against him, her skin showing safe. Content blues. Daniel stared at the ceiling and wondered what kind of parents lost a kid like this. What kind of species let a child wander around dangerous stations alone? But those questions could wait. Right now they had one more day to the junction, and he needed to make sure they both made it there alive. The Sirius junction appeared on the sensors like a glowing jewel in the dark. Daniel had been here twice before, both times just passing through. It was a massive trading hub where hundreds of species met to exchange goods, information, and occasionally threats. Right now it looked like salvation. The weathered Hope limped toward the junction on fumes. Daniel had squeezed every last drop of efficiency from his dying engines. Lena sat next to him, her skin showing nervous yellows as she watched the huge station grow larger in the viewport. "Big place," Daniel said. "Lots of ships. We'll find your people here, I promise." Daniel's scanner picked up the diplomatic convoy almost immediately. There were 5 large vessels in the standard formation, elegant ships that made his cargo hauler look like floating garbage. He opened a communication channel. "This is the cargo vessel Weathered Hope requesting communication with the Luminar diplomatic convoy. I have a passenger I believe belongs to you." The response was silence. Daniel frowned and tried again. "Luminar convoy, this is Daniel Reed. I found a Luminar child at Procyon 7 station 2 days ago. I'm here to return her safely." This time the response was immediate, but not what he expected. Every alarm on his ship started screaming at once. His scanner showed 12 massive warships decloaking around him, appearing from nowhere. They surrounded the Weathered Hope completely, weapons charged and ready. What the hell? Daniel breathed. A voice came through his communications, cold and commanding. Cargo vessel, power down all weapons and engines immediately. Prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in your destruction. I don't have weapons. Daniel shouted back. I'm just trying to return a kid. Comply now. Daniel looked at Lena. Her skin had gone completely white, a color he had never seen before. She was shaking. It's okay, he told her, even though nothing about this was okay. Just a misunderstanding. He powered down his engines and waited. Within minutes, a boarding shuttle attached to his airlock. 6 luminar soldiers came through, wearing armor that seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as Lena's skin. They moved fast, weapons ready, securing the ship in seconds. Then she entered. The Queen Regent. Daniel knew it immediately, even though he had never seen a luminar royal before. She was tall, taller than the soldiers, and her skin showed complex patterns of silver and gold that seemed to flow like water. She wore robes that looked like they were woven from starlight. Her presence filled the entire cockpit. Lena made a sound Daniel had never heard before, a sort of singing cry. She jumped from the co-pilot seat and ran to the Queen. The royal figure dropped to her knees and caught the child, holding her tightly. For a moment, the Queen's perfect composure broke, and her skin flashed through a dozen different colors. They spoke in a language Daniel could not understand, rapid and musical. The Queen checked Lena carefully, running her hands over the child's arms and face, looking for injuries. Lena kept pointing at Daniel and saying things that made the Queen look up at him with her large, ancient eyes. Finally, the Queen stood, still holding Lena on her hip. She studied Daniel for a long moment. "You are Daniel Reed," she said in perfect English. "Cargo hauler. 42 years old. No family, no criminal record. Minimal savings. Ship held together by determination and luck." "You've done your homework," Daniel said, feeling defensive. "Look, I just wanted to return your kid. I didn't mean to cause an incident." "My daughter," the Queen corrected. "Crown Princess Lyra of the Luminar Ascendancy. Heir to 200 worlds. She has been missing for 4 days." Daniel's brain stopped working for several seconds. "Princess. Your daughter. 4 days. We have been searching everywhere," the Queen said. "When she disappeared from Procyon 7, we feared the worst. Kidnapping, murder, political assassination." She looked down at Lyra, who was now chattering excitedly and showing the Queen something on Daniel's datapad. "But you found her. And more than that, you brought her home." "Anyone would have," Daniel said automatically. "No," the Queen replied, and her voice was sad. "Most would not have. Most would have ignored a lost child. Some would have sold her. A few might have returned her only after learning her value." She paused. "You spent fuel you could not afford. You nearly died repairing your life support system to keep her safe. You showed her your world and taught her words. You treated her not as a valuable object, but as a child who needed care. That's just basic decency," Daniel said, confused. "Is it?" The Queen gestured to her soldiers. They stepped back, forming a respectful distance. "Princess Lyra, tell this human what you told me." Lyra looked at Daniel with her big eyes. Her skin glowed soft pink. "In careful, practiced English," she said, "he kept me safe. He gave me water and stars. He did not want anything. He is good." The Queen set Lyra down gently. The princess immediately ran back to Daniel and took his hand. She would not let go. "Come with us, Daniel Reed," the Queen said. "We must speak aboard my vessel. There are things you must know. Things that will change your understanding of these past 3 days." "I really should get back," Daniel said weakly. "My ship needs repairs. I've got contracts to make up. "Your ship is being towed to our main bay as we speak," the Queen interrupted. "Our engineers will repair it. As for your contracts, I assure you that will be the least of your concerns very shortly." She smiled, and it was not entirely a happy expression. "You see, Daniel Reed, you have done something that has happened only 7 times in 3,000 years. And you did not even know you were doing it." Daniel looked down at Lyra, who smiled up at him with complete trust. Her skin showed happy golds and pinks. He had a feeling his life was about to get very complicated. The Luminar flagship was beyond anything Daniel had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of living light, shifting and flowing with soft colors. The floor felt solid but looked like walking on stars. He kept expecting to fall through it, but his boots found purchase on something he could not quite see or understand. Queen led him to a private chamber while Lyra held both their hands, skipping between them. The room was circular, with a view of space that took up an entire wall. It might have been a window or a screen. Daniel could not tell the difference. "Sit," the Queen said, gesturing to a chair that formed itself out of the floor. Daniel sat carefully, half expecting it to dissolve under him. It held. The Queen remained standing, and her expression became serious. "What I am about to tell you must be understood completely. Princess Lyra's disappearance was not an accident. It was intentional. It was a test." Daniel felt cold. "You lost your own daughter on purpose? On a station full of criminals?" "Not lost, placed, and watched." The Queen touched a control on her wrist, and the wall lit up with images. Daniel saw himself at Procyon 7, finding Lyra between the containers. He saw himself asking around the station, carrying her to his ship, showing her pictures of Earth. He saw himself nearly dying in the cockpit, gasping for air while rerouting oxygen to save her. "You recorded everything," Daniel said quietly. "Every moment. We had 3 stealth ships following you from the moment you left Procyon 7. If your repairs had failed completely, we would have intervened. We would never have allowed true harm to come to my daughter. But we needed to see what you would do when you believed you were alone. When you thought no one was watching. Why?" Daniel felt anger rising. "What gives you the right?" "An ancient custom," the Queen said. "The test of worthiness. When a royal child reaches a certain age, they are placed in a situation where they need help from another species. We observe who helps, who ignores, who exploits. It tells us about the moral character of other civilizations." She paused. "You are angry. That is understandable. But please hear me fully before you judge." Daniel forced himself to calm down. Lyra had climbed into his lap and was playing with a button on his shirt, seemingly unaware of the tension in the room. "In 3,000 years, the Queen continued, we have conducted this test 147 times across 73 different species. Of those 147 tests, only 7 individuals have ever passed with complete selflessness. Most ignore the child. Many return her only after learning who she is, seeking reward. Some try to ransom her. 2 attempted to sell her." The Queen's skin flashed angry red for a moment. "You are the 8th person in 3,000 years to pass this test. And you are the first human ever tested. Why me?" Daniel asked. "Random selection from individuals in the right location at the right time. You were chosen because you were ordinary. A cargo hauler with no special training, no political connections, no wealth. We wanted to see what an average human would do. And what did you learn?" The Queen sat down across from him, her movements graceful. "That you humans are strange. Your species is young, barely out of your home system. You fight constant wars among yourselves. Your planet struggles with poverty, disease, political chaos. By most measures, you should be too focused on survival to care about others." She looked at him intently. "Yet you spent fuel you desperately needed. You risked your life for a child who was not your species, not your responsibility. You asked for nothing in return. Why?" Daniel looked down at Lyra, who had fallen asleep in his arms. Because she needed help. Because she was scared and alone. What kind of person walks away from that? Most people, the Queen said softly. Most species. That is what we learned from 3,000 years of testing. True altruism is extraordinarily rare. Most beings help only when it benefits them, or when they are watched and judged. You helped when you thought no one would ever know. That is the difference. What happens now? Daniel asked. The Queen stood and walked to the viewport. Now everything changes. For you and for your species. You see, the Luminar Ascendancy is part of the Elder Civilization Council. We are one of 3 founding species who guide younger civilizations, offer protection, share technology. Humanity has applied for membership 3 times. 3 times you have been rejected. Daniel felt his stomach sink. Because we're too violent. Too divided. Not ready. Yes, many council members believe humanity will destroy itself before reaching maturity. That you are too dangerous to bring into the galactic community. She turned to face him. But I have argued for years that humanity should be given a chance. That you have potential. My colleagues always asked for proof. Now I have it. One person isn't proof of anything, Daniel said. I'm just a cargo hauler. There are billions of humans. Some are good, some are terrible. I don't represent everyone. Don't you? The Queen's skin showed thoughtful purples. When I researched your species after this test, I found thousands of stories. Humans running into burning buildings to save strangers. Humans donating organs to people they never met. Human aid workers dying in war zones to help refugees. Human teachers spending their own money on supplies for children. Humans adopting abandoned animals, protecting endangered species, cleaning polluted oceans. She smiled. Your news focuses on the violence and division, but your history is filled with ordinary humans doing extraordinary acts of kindness, expecting nothing in return. You are not unusual for a human, Daniel Reed. You are typical. That is what makes you remarkable. Daniel did not know what to say. Lyra stirred in his arms, making a small sleepy sound. There will be a council meeting in 6 days, the Queen said. You will speak before them. You will represent humanity's case for membership. If you succeed, everything changes for your species. Daniel spent 3 days on the Luminar flagship, and each day he became more convinced that he was the wrong person for this job. The Queen assigned him a suite that was larger than his entire ship. Advisors came and went, coaching him on diplomatic protocols, teaching him about the Elder Council's history and politics. His head spun with information about species he had never heard of and conflicts that went back thousands of years. Lyra visited him every day, usually bringing him food or small gifts. She was learning English rapidly, and they would sit together while she told him about her home world. It was a desert planet, just as he had guessed, with cities built underground around precious water sources. She showed him pictures of crystalline towers that grew from the ground like trees, and vast caverns filled with glowing pools. You would like it, Lyra said, her skin showing happy yellows. I will take you there someday. You can see the deep water halls. They are beautiful. I'd like that, Daniel said, even though he knew he would probably never see her world. After the council meeting, he would go back to his normal life. Back to hauling cargo and scraping by. This was just a strange detour, nothing more. On the 4th day, the Queen summoned him to her private office. She looked tired, her skin showing stressed grays mixed with her usual golds. The council has agreed to hear your testimony, she said. But I must be honest with you, Daniel Reed. The opposition is strong. 3 of the 5 elder species believe humanity is too dangerous. They have prepared extensive evidence of human violence, wars, environmental destruction. They will argue that bringing humans into the council would destabilize the galaxy. Maybe they're right, Daniel said. We've done a lot of terrible things. I can't argue with that. But you can argue for humanity's potential. For what you might become. The Queen leaned forward. I am offering you something, Daniel Reed. A position as human ambassador to the Luminar Ascendancy. You would be the first. You would represent your species in all dealings with us, and potentially with the entire Elder Council. The position comes with substantial resources, living quarters here on the flagship, access to technology and education. You would become one of the most important humans in the galaxy. Daniel felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. I'm a cargo hauler. I barely finished school. I have no idea how to be a diplomat. Yet, you understood how to treat a lost child with dignity and kindness. You understood sacrifice without being taught. You understood that some things matter more than profit or safety. The Queen's skin showed warm colors. These are the foundations of true diplomacy. The rest can be learned. What if I fail? What if I go before this council and make things worse for humanity? That is a risk, the Queen admitted. But consider the alternative. If you do nothing, humanity remains rejected. Your species continues struggling alone, without the protections and technologies the Council provides. But if you try, if you speak honestly about what humans are and what they can be, there is a chance. Not a guarantee, but a chance. Daniel thought about Earth, about the millions of people there who had no idea this conversation was happening. People just trying to survive, working hard, raising families, helping neighbors. Regular people like him who would probably do the same thing he did if given the chance. What do I have to do? He asked. The Queen's skin brightened. Speak the truth. Show them what I saw in you. Help them understand that humanity deserves a chance to prove themselves. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Daniel met with dozens of Luminar officials, learning about council procedures and the arguments he would face. He reviewed files on human history, both the good and the terrible. He practiced speeches and threw them all away because they sounded fake, like he was pretending to be someone he was not. The night before the council meeting, Lyra snuck into his suite after her bedtime. She climbed onto his bed where he was staring at his notes, unable to sleep. You are worried, she said, her skin showing concerned blues. Yeah, Daniel admitted. I'm scared I'll mess this up. You won't, Lyra said with complete confidence. You showed me Earth. You showed me the water and the mountains and the green growing things. You showed me kindness when I was scared. Now you show the council. You show them Earth. Show them humans. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Lyra took his hand. You did not try to be special when you found me. You were just you. Be just you tomorrow. That is enough. Daniel looked at this small alien child who trusted him completely. Who believed in him without doubt. Maybe she was right. Maybe trying to be something he was not was the mistake. Maybe he just needed to be honest. Okay, he said. I'll try. Lyra smiled, her skin glowing soft gold. I will be there tomorrow. In the council chamber. I get to sit with Mother because I am part of why you are there. When you are scared, look at me. I will show you brave colors. She hugged him goodnight and left, escorted by her guards back to the royal quarters. Daniel sat alone in the dark, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, home, a planet full of people who had no idea their future might change. Tomorrow based on what one cargo hauler said to a room full of ancient aliens. No pressure. Daniel thought. He tried to sleep but could not. Instead, he pulled up pictures of Earth on his datapad. The same pictures he had shown Lyra, oceans and mountains. Cities and forests. Humans doing human things. Working, playing, helping each other. Living their lives. This was what he would show the council. Not speeches or promises. Just the truth about ordinary people trying their best in a complicated universe. He hoped it would be enough. The council chamber was carved from something that looked like frozen light. It was massive, with hundreds of seats arranged in a circle around a central platform. Every seat was filled with representatives from luminar worlds, their crystalline skin showing every color imaginable. The air hummed with their voices, thousands of conversations in a language that sounded like music. Daniel stood on the platform in his cleaned work clothes. The queen had offered him formal robes, but he had declined. If he was going to represent regular humans, he should look like one. The queen sat in the highest seat, with Lyra beside her in a smaller chair. The princess's skin glowed encouraging gold, just as she had promised. 3 other elder species had representatives present via hologram. The Kren, who looked like they were made of living metal. The Stillwater, who appeared as clouds of luminous gas. And the Architects, geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. A luminar elder called the chamber to order. His skin showed formal silver and blue patterns. We are here to consider the human petition for Elder Council membership. Daniel Reed, cargo hauler of Earth, will speak on behalf of his species. The council will then deliberate and vote. Daniel stepped forward. His mouth was dry. Hundreds of eyes watched him, some curious, many hostile. He could feel the weight of their judgment. "I'm not a diplomat," Daniel began. His voice echoed in the huge chamber. "I'm not a politician or a scientist or anyone important. I haul cargo. I fix broken ships. I try to pay my bills and not cause trouble. That's what most humans do. We're ordinary people living ordinary lives." A Kren representative's voice boomed through the chamber. Ordinary people who have fought over 6,000 wars in recorded history. Ordinary people who poisoned their own planet. Ordinary people who cannot unite even their single world. Why should we trust such a species with galactic membership? Daniel took a breath. You shouldn't. Not based on trust. You should judge us based on what we actually do, not what we promise. Murmurs ran through the chamber. That was apparently not the answer they expected. Humans are flawed, Daniel continued. We make terrible mistakes. We fight, we destroy. We're selfish and short-sighted, and sometimes really stupid. I can't stand here and deny any of that because it's all true. Our history is full of horrible things. Then why are we listening to this? A luminar elder called out. Because our history is also full of other things, Daniel said. Things that might not make the news or the history books, but happen every single day. A teacher in a poor neighborhood who spends her own money on books for students. A firefighter who runs into a burning building to save a stranger. A doctor who travels to war zones to treat refugees. A person who sees a lost child and decides to help, even when it costs them everything they have. He pulled out his datapad and projected images onto the chamber walls. Pictures of Earth, but not the famous landmarks or beautiful scenery. Images of ordinary people. A man sharing his lunch with a homeless person. A woman stopping traffic to help a turtle cross the road. Neighbors clearing snow from an elderly person's driveway. Volunteers cleaning trash from beaches. A child giving their coat to another child who was cold. These are not special humans, Daniel said. These are regular people. People like me. People who work hard, struggle to pay bills, worry about their families. But when they see someone who needs help, they help. Not because they expect rewards. Not because someone is watching. They help because it's the right thing to do. A Stillwater representative spoke, its voice like wind through grass. These are isolated incidents. Anomalies in a violent species, are they? Daniel countered. When Hurricane Sarah hit the Gulf Coast last year, 50,000 volunteers showed up to help rebuild. Nobody forced them. Nobody paid them. They just came. When the pandemic spread through Southeast Asia, human medical teams flew into the worst areas, knowing they might die, because people needed help. When earthquakes destroyed cities, humans from every nation sent aid, even nations that were enemies. He looked around the chamber. You say humans are too violent to join the Elder Council. But every day, millions of humans choose peace over violence. They choose cooperation over conflict. They choose to help instead of harm. Those choices don't make dramatic news stories, but they're happening constantly. That's what humanity actually is. Not the wars and destruction, but the endless, quiet determination to be better than our worst impulses. The chamber had gone silent. Daniel pressed on. You tested me with Princess Lyra. You wanted to see if one random human would help a lost child. I did, but I promise you, if you picked another random human, most of them would do the same thing. Maybe not exactly the same way, but they'd help. Because that's what humans do. We look out for each other, even when we're strangers. Especially when someone is vulnerable and afraid. He looked directly at the Kren representative who had challenged him. You asked why you should trust humanity. I'm saying don't. Don't trust our promises or our potential. Judge us by our actions. Watch us. Test us. Give us a chance to prove that we're more than our worst moments. That's all we're asking for. A chance. Daniel fell silent. He had said everything he could think to say. Now it was up to them. The Queen stood. The council will deliberate. Daniel Reed, please wait outside the chamber. As Daniel turned to leave, Lyra stood up in her seat. Her skin blazed brilliant gold, so bright it lit up the entire section where she sat. He showed me Earth, she said in her clear young voice. He showed me kindness. He is good. Humans are good. I know it. The Queen gently guided her daughter back to her seat, but did not silence her. Lyra's words hung in the air as Daniel walked out.